Tara Doyle-Enneking here, the CEO and president of the Puyallup Sumner Chamber of Commerce, here with our second C-Suite podcast. I'm excited that our guests today, our very first guests, are great partners in the community. We all know the icon, the Washington State Fair, and we have the CEO, Kent Hojem, a real pillar in our community, along with his counterpart, Renee McClain, the CFO, who is also recently our board chair. Phenomenal friend and just two great people. So I hope you have fun with these podcasts. I sure am. It's going to be fun to uncover stories, secrets, lessons learned in this community. But without further ado, I'd like to bring out Miss Renee McClain and Kent Hojem of the Washington State Fair.
A fair is a veritable smorgasbord, after the crowds have ceased. Each night when the lights go out, it can be found on the ground all around. Oh, what a rat-play feast.
Welcome.
Wow.
One of my favorite movies, Charlotte's Web and Templeton. Going, cutting loose at the fairgrounds after hours, something I've always wanted to do. Will you let me do that at some point?
No.
Definitely not. Always ruining my fun. Gosh darn it. Well, hey, I am so excited that our very first guests, as I mentioned, are our favorite partners, the Washington State Fair. And we have Mr. Kent Hojem here, the CEO, pillar in the community, and has been at this post for quite some time. And then we have the lovely Renee McClain, the CFO of the Washington State Fair. So I am excited to dive in, learn a little bit about you, maybe crack open some secrets that you might have to tell. No secrets. No secrets. But I know it'll be fun. So let's kick this off, and I'd like you to both just let me know a little bit about what your path to the C-suite looks like.
Oh, you want to go first?
Well, maybe I should, since my path started first.
Yeah, go ahead.
There we go.
Well, basically my path to the C-suite started, I trained in accounting, came through public accounting, worked out in a couple different ventures before I came to the fair. And then at the fair came in as a business manager, which was their accounting position at that time. And then what's important about that is that Kent also interviewed for the position as business manager.
Oh.
But he didn't get that position. Probably because he never wanted that position.
Look how quick it took us to get to a secret.
I know, that's a secret.
All of 10
that's
seconds.
not a secret. I tell everybody that. No. And I do, yeah. And then basically, that was 20-something years ago. And then through those past 20 years, the organization, that position changed from a business manager position to be a chief financial officer. The organization grew. I think that my involvement in some of the strategic planning in the organization and other areas, allowed me to take on that position. And that's how I got to where I am right now.
And I think you forgot one little part, because I love some of your bargaining chips of going in and knowing where you were at your life and what would also work for you in that role. And I think that takes a woman of gusto.
Yes, yeah. When I came to the fair and I had 2 children, I was going to have 2 more. Came to them and said, when they were hiring for the position, and said, I'm really only looking at 3 days a week working. It wasn't really about hours. It was just about time away from the home. And so they offered me the position, but they said 40 hours a week, 5 days a week. I said, I'm not interested. We went through that iteration twice. And there was also other things that went wrong in that interview, but somehow I still ended up at the fair.
Yeah, we don't need to tell that
Don't
other
tell
story.
But I think that is important. It was like I've always looked at my life in 25-year increments and where I want to be and what my priority is. And so that's kind of how I ended up at the fair. They totally, the CEO at the time, which wasn't Kent, totally actually supported that. And he was pretty visionary in everything, including, I think, a woman's work in the workplace and trying to have some flexibility. And so that was great for him to take that leap of faith. And then Kent has fully supported that. And now he has me working 5 days a week, 60 hours.
Well, there aren't little chitlins in it. Yeah, I like that part, and I think that also just again speaks to who you are too. Again, a bold move to kind of assert yourself that way, and I love that they respected it and brought you on, and obviously it was the right move.
Well, that still remains to be seen, but so far so good, I guess.
Yes, no, Renee is wonderful. What she's done for the fair, just you can't measure it over the years. So it's been, a real pleasure to get to work with her for way too long now.
Well, Kent, so tell us about your path then to the C-suite, if you will, and what a C-suite you have.
Okay.
Greatest office, west side of the Mississippi. Come on.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Chehalis, only left there long enough to go to college, and then I actually came back and worked for a living for a while. But I started working at the local fair when I was in high school. Worked every summer through college, and it wasn't until after I graduated from college that I actually went to a real job for a while. Worked for my father's company, but I always came back and carved out a couple of weeks to be able to work at the local fair. Eventually, they hired me full time as the assistant manager, and then went to work at the Thurston County Fair as the manager there. And after 10 years at Thurston County, the former CEO of the Washington State Fair contacted me and said, "Hey, we're looking for," actually, first he said, "I want you to interview for the position that Renee eventually got."
That we know that you're not going to get. That's
Yeah. I'm not sure why you just had to have me interview for it. But then they turned around and had me interview for the operations manager's position, which I did get. And after about 9 years there, they hired me when Bob retired for the CEO position. So that was my journey.
You have been in the fair world
I've
a
been
fair amount of time.
a fair amount of time.
You sure have. So do you know what reality looks like?
Yes, I do.
full of cotton candy
Yeah.
and
I know. You're living Templeton's life.
Yeah, all those things.
Gosh, I worry about you should you ever end this career of yours. What are you
So-
going to do?
Yeah, well, I just was looking, and if you take it, it's actually been 50 years since I started working at the fair, but there were a couple years in there when I didn't work at the fair, so it's not truly 50, but it's been a long,
Wow.
long time.
Wow. That's awesome. I guess I'll kind of stay with you, Kent. What do you love most about your role?
working with me.
They do tend to answer each other's questions quite a bit.
Okay, wait,
I
It's
love
like
it.
a nightmarish marriage is what it is.
Yeah, that's that second part of the question.
Yeah. My favorite part about my position, anybody who doesn't answer it this way need to have their head examined, because it's people. It's the people you get to work with. It's the people that come to the fair. It's your partners. It's always the people, right? The
Right.
people are the most important thing. They're your greatest asset. They're integral in every way, shape, or form to the company. And so, and we've, Renee included, we've gotten to work, the opportunity to work with some tremendous people. And since it's the fair industry, some tremendous characters too.
Oh,
And I
absolutely.
mean that in the best way possible, but there
Yes.
are some characters out there. But, just memories that we'll cherish forever, because it's such a unique industry. But it's always the people and how to help everybody achieve their potential, and in that way kind of achieving your potential.
Great. Oh, that was well answered.
That was well answered.
You sound surprised.
Yeah, I haven't heard that before.
Well, there you go.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Oh. And Renee, what would you say is your favorite part of your role?
Well, he said something was wrong with me if I didn't answer it the same way, but I'm good. But he's already known
People!
that.
People!
Yeah, the people. No,
Of
and I
course.
actually would have to say I was a person before I came to the fair that I'm going to only do things for 5 years. Like I would only be interested in 5 years. It would only challenge me for 5 years, or that would be the case. And the fair itself is just ever changing, and it really has been unlimited, the possibilities. And so I may be an accountant, and that may be what I'm trained to do. But when it comes to the fair, I have got to be, Miss Holiday Magic and put on the new event that we have. And it's just, but so you are able to do other things, but it's always changing. And I love accounting, and I will always love accounting. But I think why I've been at the fair so long is because it is ever evolving and changing, and it is putting on a big party. And there is nothing I like better than a party.
We agree.
Yeah.
We know that about you.
Yes. And my birthday party, I really, really like my birthday.
You love every holiday.
I do. I love every holiday.
Oh, I love it. So Kent, you're a humble guy, so this might be a little challenging for you. What value do you feel you bring most to the organization?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'm collaborative, but I do I give people their reign. Give people their head. Everybody has a unique set of experiences and challenges and can bring something to the table. But if you don't take advantage of that, then and I think I am uniquely qualified to do that. To let people help us.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one thing I do. I think I'm a hidden figures guy. Renee knows that I'm pretty good with numbers.
You like data.
I like data. I do like data, but it's the numbers thing is in my DNA too, and so I do think I bring that capability. I think I work hard. I think I work very hard, and the fair CEO position is one that is not 8 to 5. It's not Monday through Friday.
Correct.
It's all the time. It's a lot of hours, but it's all survivable because of the wonderful things you get to do. Renee hit it on the head. It's something different every day, and it's what an opportunity. I consider it an honor, really, to work at the fair. That's just the coolest job in the world.
Oh yeah. So. Except for the chamber. No, the fair gets it. Definitely. Roller coasters. Yeah. You got it. Scones.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely. How about you, Renee? What value do you bring to the organization?
I think it would be being passionate and having energy and sometimes maybe too much passion and energy, and the combination could be combustible. But helping be strategic. I think Kent has really allowed his management team to help be strategic in the direction of the fair and where we need to go. And he's most definitely not a micromanager. But then he also does know. I learned a lot from Kent. I move way too fast. Kent, I maybe moves too slow sometimes. But kind of the combination
Yang
of that
to your
pace,
yang.
yeah,
Yes,
it has been. I think that's been complimentary, and I think it's kind of those two components together that I think has helped the organization often over the years.
Who's Laurel? Who's Hardy? Who's Felix? Who's Oscar?
Yeah.
There's a little combination there. I think whenever I think of Renee, I think of enthusiasm. And,
Yeah.
One thing, you can't pay for enthusiasm. You can't buy enthusiasm. You have to just bring that with yourself to the job. And she is always enthusiastic, and that's just a tremendous, tremendous trait.
Oh,
So.
I love that about her. And you know what? I'm going to flip this on you. I'm going to, instead of you asking or answering this question for yourself, I'll ask you to identify what you would say is Renee's greatest accomplishment in her role, and I'm going to flip it on you for him. How do you like that?
Oh.
Well, I wish I had more time. Renee's greatest accomplishment?
Oh, God.
The challenge is we've worked together so long, I kind of think from here backwards, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't get back very far.
Yeah.
There've been any number of wonderful things that she's done for the fair, but just in the past, when you think about it, in the past 3 or 4 years, her ability to really think outside the box and think through things have brought to the fair a couple of really important things. One was Holiday Magic. Now, I admit that the initial idea Renee and I shared, but at that point, I basically turned it over to her, and she created what has become just a tremendous event. I mean, I can't say enough about it.
It's magical.
And her ability to sit down, so that's one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is her ability to sit down and really work the numbers has led to a tremendous amount of grants, money.
Tapping into resources.
Yeah, tapping into resources through the pandemic that, this has allowed the fair to really almost not skip a beat after being shut down for basically 2 years.
Right.
I think that's
an industry that
phenomenal.
should have been impacted the most, and it certainly was, but yeah, she filled in the gap.
Yep. And, like I said, then you're just asking me to search my memory banks, and there's just a lot of stuff that she brought as she and I talk a lot. I didn't mean that quite the way it sounded, but it is true. But we do talk a lot about how much more complex doing business is anymore, right? Mm-hmm. The complexity involved in the fair is unbelievable compared to when the two of us started. And the fact that she's been able to navigate those complexities, pretty amazing. Pretty amazing just to kind of be in the orbit with her.
Yeah.
Think of her as a large meteorite that could crash into my
Wow. Whoa.
my moon at any time. But
She's light of foot
phenomenal.
for sure. Yes.
Phenomenal.
This is recorded, and I am going to be able to take this down.
Hold this over
Yeah.
my head forever.
Oh
Yeah. Well, and I think for me and to Kent is that it wasn't too many years ago. I think maybe 2019, pre-pandemic. Actually before that, Kent was the IFE, so that's the biggest organization in the fair industry, international, and very big in the United States. And so Kent was the IFE president, and his platform in doing that was first evolution. If you don't evolve, if you don't, move forward, and Kent being a traditionalist, right, coming from the roots of logging,
50 years.
the fair industry. So he definitely understands staying true to your roots, but understanding that evolution needed to happen, and it became revolution, that it needs to happen at a pace. We can't just take it slowly in the fair industry. We have to hit some stuff head on, and Kent is always open to hear what that may be. He's really good at listening, and he allows us, as a management team or myself, to go through something. He takes time and then comes back with his thoughts, and everything from, we've been through rebranding, we've been through date expansion, we've been through purchasing Oktoberfest Foley, there's just so many things that have happened, and he is that leader. He is transparent. He is an ethical person. So if there's anything that's the most important to me, is that the person that I'm supporting and that is leading me is that they are ethical. And there has absolutely never been a quiver that that's not the case. And so it's very easy for me to be all in and to be the second. He lets us shine, and only every once in a while does he knock us down, like
As every good leader should.
Yes.
Be honest. Yes. So Kent, you may have answered this, but maybe not. What was your very first job? So we heard about the fair, but didn't know if age 13 or no.
Okay. So I just recently turned 65. So my roots go back when you could hire 11 and 12-year-olds to do things.
Right.
And my first job, where I'm from, outside of Chehalis, is up on a hill, and it used to be covered with strawberry fields, just acres and acres.
We
of
haven't had this conversation. Keep going.
Yes. And so my very first paid job was to pick strawberries. First of all, in interest of full disclosure, I was horrible at it, absolutely horrible. And after 3 days of it, I woke up the morning of the fourth day, and I was covered in welts, absolutely covered in welts.
Oh,
My
no.
mother was horrified, took me to the doctor, who did the tongue depressor and looked, and I had welts in my throat even.
Oh,
And after a little bit of experience, discovered that I was allergic not to the berries, but to the plants.
Oh.
And so I like to tell the story because 3 days' wages was about, I don't remember, because since I was horrible, he got paid by the flat, right? And I think I got about $8. And we had to go get some medication for me because of the welts that cost about 10.
Oh,
And so
no.
my mother,
He was
for the rest of
backwards.
her life, liked to remind me that my first job was a money loser.
Yes.
That was my very first job. And then
Oh.
there were other jobs along the way. But, like I said, in high school, I was only 16 years old when I started working for the local fair. And it was a great experience, and I just had a ball. But the first one was the berry
But it's
field.
the berry fields, and you weren't very good. And what made you not very good?
Well, something Renee will not find surprising at all. I easily distracted by just about anything. So, the experienced folks, they would go down to the end of a row, and then they'd come back and they'd work the next row. And I would meet them working on the first row as they were about halfway through the second row. And so that only got worse as the day progressed. So eventually, it's probably good that I had to quit because I probably would have been fired eventually, I think. It was not good.
Oh no. How about you, Renee? What was your first job?
Because we have not had that conversation, because my first job, I lived in Cedro Woolley,
What?
and that was, the agriculture was huge, and strawberries was my first job. But I was
Look at
amazing.
these
I
paths
was
that have just
amazing at picking
intersected.
strawberries, and in fact, so good that they used to. I was very fast,
Hmm.
and
Good for you.
I know.
Good for you. he
And
says.
then sometimes I did, so I would get paid $1 if I did back handsprings down the rows. Because my girlfriends had to have a certain number of flats or they couldn't come home. I'd get to pick the actual premium berries to show the people when they were coming in.
Whatever.
She is Miss Strawberry.
And then I did.
Are you having strawberry envy?
Yeah, you are.
No.
You're turning
No.
Yeah,
red as a
I'm
strawberry.
pretty sure he faked the welts. There's not a lot of good guy strawberry pickers out there. But then when you got to raspberries, that was terrible. They had thorns. But cucumbers were not too bad. That's when being a guy is helpful to carry the buckets.
Mm.
And then the big promotion I got was doing the spinach. And you got to lay on this
Wow.
automated thing and look for the males. I don't
Gosh.
know.
Growing up in Silicon Valley, we just didn't have these experiences.
See what you missed out on?
You do know that I did chicken catching, though, and that was an unpaid job where you had to go at night with the subdued chickens and put them in the crates and they took them off to their death.
This is great.
You
This is
murderer.
great. This is great. Okay, so well, I don't know. Maybe your first job was your worst job, Ken, because that's my next question. What was your worst job?
Oh, that was it.
That was it, yeah,
Definitely
that's
it.
what I thought.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's really nothing to compare to that.
How about you, Renee?
Well, mine was the chicken catching because it was not paid and it was in the middle of the night and you were sending them to their death. And yeah, I told Kent that we actually then lived in Mount Vernon at that time, and the company Draper Valley had their plant down there at the bottom of the hill that we lived in. Some of the chickens that I probably caught escaped, and it would make me so happy to see them free. I don't know. Yeah,
Oh gosh, you were trying to fail at your job.
I was trying to fail at my job. That
gosh.
job.
For the good of the chickens.
That's right.
So how about when you think of leaders, supervisors, bosses? A best boss, a favorite boss, and why?
Who are you asking, me or
How about
her?
you?
Okay. Well, so, I had great relationships with every fair manager that I worked for. And I would be hard pressed to really choose. There were 4 over the years. And I would be hard pressed to choose between those 4. But certainly, Tony Wildhaber was my first boss at the Southwest Washington Fair. So I started with him when I was still in high school. I actually grew up with his kids, and we were very close friends, his kids and I. And I really learned a tremendous amount about the fair industry working with Tony. He eventually carved out a little space in his office and moved a desk in there for me, and that lasted for about 3 days because Tony it was a different time. And
It
he
was a different
yeah.
time.
It was
He had
just,
strawberry plants in his
no,
office?
but sometimes he'd get a little excited when people weren't doing exactly
Oh.
what he thought they should be doing. So anyway, but I did learn a tremendous amount from Tony. He retired and went to work for Lee Combs. And what I learned from Lee, surprisingly, was less about the fair industry and more about humanity, more about people, right? Lee was a great people person. And so it was a tremendous experience and totally different for me to work with Lee. And then I just told Renee this story. The next guy, I had graduated from college, and Lee went back to teaching after however many years at the Southwest Washington Fair, and the position opened up, and I was a candidate. And at 24 years old, I couldn't imagine they wouldn't hire me, right? I thought I was a deadlock
Of
cinch.
course.
And much to my shock, they did not hire me. And the man they hired was a fellow named Earl Spencer. And so I was distraught, to say the least. And my dad took me aside. I'll give you this. This is a little aside, but I think it's lesson learned here. And he said, "You know what? If they don't want you, you probably don't want to be there." I thought, oh, that's pretty darn good.
Pretty wise.
But I did go back to work for them in a different position, work for Earl. And what I learned from Earl was patience. Patience was a big thing
Training
there.
for me.
Yes, that did train me for you. Organization. Earl was, he was always kind of thoughtful about how to approach things. And then the last one was an acquaintance that started when I was at Southwest Washington Fair. Got a little stronger when I was at Thurston County Fair, and that was Bob Carlson, who was my predecessor as CEO of the Washington State Fair. And Bob taught me a lot about everything. I think Bob might have a touch of ADHD too. I'm not sure, but thoroughly enjoyed learning from Bob. Those four guys, I think, create the foundation which I stand on now. So yeah, I can't say enough about for the forum.
Well said. How about you, Renee? Well,
Yeah, how about you, Renee?
How about you, Renee?
Have I done your review yet?
Yeah, no, as a matter of fact, you haven't. But, well, I have, absolutely. I mean, it would be Kent. I wouldn't be at the fair for, well, how many years has it been? We have to figure this out.
27 or something.
Yeah,
like
27 years. And really, I mean, there's respect, but I also, I mean, it is a friendship. I mean, we truly enjoy, I think, working together. And there are very few times, and we've named it. I mean, there's a couple of times I've told them that we're done. We're over. I think in our entire 27 years, yeah, we broke up, and we laugh about that because there literally has only been a couple times. It doesn't mean we don't challenge each other or that we don't agree. But again, you know, I have to look at the person that is, you know, leading me and have that respect for them. And if I don't, then everything else is kind of broken down. And I give it to Bob Carlson, who Kent mentioned, because, you know, he had the, you know, the ability to go against the grain. You have to go back. That's 27 years ago to say, you know, we're going to hire this woman who has 2 kids, who's going to, you know, have more kids and wants to work part-time. I mean, that was pretty revolutionary back then. And he was visionary, and he was out of the box. And so being an accounting person coming from what's, you know, to keep things safe, he taught me, you know, to go for things and to be creative and to evolve, you know, to make sure we did that. And the other one would be my father. So after I got out of those fields and all the dirt in the early mornings and all of those, I then worked in my father's company up north, and I worked in the accounting department, but got to watch him as the way he handled his employees. And anybody could come to my dad's office, and my dad would take the time for anybody, which meant that he had a lot of late nights. And he didn't care who the person was, if it was the janitor, or if it was the, you know, biggest customer that they had, he treated them all with the same level of respect. Same way I would say that, you know, I have seen in Kent has those same traits that I had seen in my father. And then the best part was that I could ask my dad for lunch money. Because
Do you ask Kent for lunch money?
No, but sometimes I make him take me to lunch.
Yeah. Same thing.
Same thing.
Same.
Yeah, same thing.
Oh, how about worst boss, I guess, or someone that just challenged you or just found it tough to work for?
So my worst boss is one of those ones. So I think your worst bosses teach you lessons. And I actually, when I left from my CPA firm and went to work from, which would be the worst client that I had at that time, but that I went to work for them. And I was only 25 at that time, and up downtown Seattle, 45th floor, Columbia Tower. And he was a sexist. He had issues. But he taught me, I mean, I had to grow up. And I had to almost be what he wasn't to some degree for the organization. And so he taught me a lot. And I respected the good part of him, you know, and learned from the not good part of him. So, yes.
Yeah.
So, you know, I can't really say I've ever had a direct report boss that I thought was not a good boss. However, in my years at Thurston County the Thurston County Fair is a branch of Thurston County government. And so I had some other responsibilities after the first couple of years at Thurston County, and I became more exposed to some elected officials. And that was, I think, so, you know, I wasn't a direct report, certainly, but, you know, they were up higher on the food chain, and I got to witness. You know, it wasn't endemic so much in the fact that they were an elected official, but it was amazing to me to see there was one person who was the public persona and the other person who was the private person. And the difference between the two was painful to witness. So that was also life lesson learned there, right? So, yeah.
Be who you are, no matter who's looking.
Yep. Yep.
Sometimes that's not good when sometimes that's not good.
Yes.
No, but again, important to talk about. Not all of life is rosy, and I think some of the greater lessons, of course, come from our challenges and adversities, and so good to dive into that as well. So let's talk a little bit about your leadership styles. Kent, you were definitely a leader I admire quietly from afar. I would never tell you that, except I guess I'm telling you that. but you are. There's a quiet strength in who you are, and definitely that pillar that you sort of hold in presence. That is very admirable, and I think a lot of our community recognizes that in you. Do you recognize that in yourself, or what would you say is your leadership style?
Well, no, in truth, this is hard to say with her sitting here, but in truth, a lot of those things that you mentioned have been pointed out by Renee over the years, because I did not recognize those things in myself, because I think it's, I was always just busy just trying to be the most authentic person I could be and make myself available to whoever. And so that was important to me. It was important to create a team and be collaborative. And so I put high priority on those things. But, Renee pointed out there's a lot of value in being a statesman. And, I'm not sure I recognize that part of me. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. Absolutely. How about you, Renee? What would you say your leadership style is?
I think my leadership style is still evolving. I think that's I think it's still evolving. I think that I do love people, and I do see people. It goes back to Tara, to you and I. I mean, I could look at you in an interview and strategically fast forward ahead and go, okay, this is the skill set of what's needed. This is the personality that what is needed. And I think in our organization, it's trying to be insightful. There's a reason for a decision, not just making a decision. I think when Kenneth and I work together, I'm like, okay, I give him the list. There's nothing as a free lunch for him because I have my list of things and go through them. And so I think it's kind of trying to be insightful, which is kind of counter to my personality that wants to make decisions and have things done. But I really believe that power is in our people, and I believe that as an organization. And I believe that is what makes the fair the amazing place to work, and then makes it, the place for people to gather in the state. So
I can attest that Renee's leadership style continues to evolve, but it's been amazing to see up close, and how she's developed kind of a business persona that just in the last 2 or 3 years, her involvement with the chamber is huge, and just I hate introducing her to people anymore because she immediately dominates the conversation and I'm shunted aside. It's a great blow to my ego.
Oh no.
Not on purpose.
Well, and again, I guess adding on to what I have also noticed or appreciated about Renee's leadership style is that candor. And not everyone earns the right to hear the candor that can come from her lips. But it comes from an authentic place, and a place of trying to make someone better, and can often, be to the point and blunt or seem, a little, oh gosh, but she really is trying to help a situation, and I think that's a trusted leader to me. That's the kind of leader I want. I don't need to always know. I'm already, the world is rose-colored glasses, so I'm okay with someone from the outside sort of helping me be better and maybe point out fallacies or such areas for improvement. And I think she does that very well. And equally on the praise you give as well, of course.
Yeah. But I think that's one of the things that you don't even know if what you have to say, you have any, that you have the worth to say it or to have that. And I think that's when you talk about the chamber. When I came to the chamber and I'm amongst peers, that are in the community doing the same thing that I'm doing in their organizations, and you realize that you do have a voice and you do have something to say. But that has been, I'm a confident person, but that's different than being a confident leader.
Yep. And I've seen that confidence level rise.
Yep. Nice. So if you could do it all over again, would you choose the same path?
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Without question.
Absolutely.
I thought so. So let's see. Who is a CEO that you admire and why?
Oh, well, for me, the easy answer for me is because I get to work with her on a certain project of yours 6 months out of the year. But Michelle Johnson, just really tremendous to see how she handles herself, handles the college, does other things. I just happen to be thinking about next week's leadership class.
Institute,
Yeah.
yes.
But I think she is phenomenal.
Yeah, Chancellor Michelle Johnson, soon to retire, but again, another pillar in the community. And when you talk about an ethical leader, an honest leader, just lives her mission and vision of Pierce College, has put Pierce College on the map at a national level. There's a lot to admire for sure. We're lucky to have the two of you facilitating our Leadership Institute.
I don't know about that, but you're lucky to have Michelle. For sure.
Best Leadership Institute program west of the Mississippi.
Ah, there we go. We gotta take over the Mississippi.
I know.
Yeah.
How about you, Renee?
Well, mine is someone who's not longer here, who was the CEO of Columbia Bank, and strong woman. Strong woman, but didn't have to do it overtly. She we would meet with her, once a year with our Columbia Bank. They were a sponsor, and there just was a way she had a presence in the room without being, the biggest person in the room. And I just really admired her leadership style and how she. It wasn't that she was a woman or not a woman, but she, being a woman and watching it, how she did that was. Yeah, Millie Dressel was definitely, someone that I admired and watched.
She would be on a lot of people on this community's list. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Definitely left her mark. What do you find most challenging about your role?
Working with Kent.
I was waiting to see who would beat who to the punch on that one.
Your review was a little.
Yeah, I know.
Oh boy.
I'll let Renee answer that first.
I think the most challenging part and lessons that I have learned, and I've even shared with Tara and different managers at the fair, is that we can do it all, right? So as people in our personality is like, take this on and take this on and take this on, and that's great. And you can do that, and you want to do that for the organization, and you want to be that person who's the go-to person. But at the end of the day, are you serving the organization the best? Are your time and talent being used to move the organization forward, or are you just getting the work done? And I think that, for me, is really honing in on, okay, what makes the most sense for me to do? How do I get it done somehow, somewhere else, or what do we, let go of? But I think that's the most challenging part that I have worked on. And sometimes in smaller organizations, you just have to do it. That's the nature of the beast, because it has to get done. But then you have to figure out, the next iteration of it. So that has, and I know for you, that's been a lot of the challenge in the chamber, because you had to be the power of one and then now get staff.
Yeah.
I think it's learning to, it's kind of a little bit of an offshoot of what you said, but it's learning to put personal feelings aside, right? Personal preference, because it's all about the company at the end of the day, right? You need to serve the mission of the company. And so over time, you tend to develop opinions about programs or opinions about people, and maybe they're not positive opinions, but you know that the result, the outcome of that person or that program is positive, and it's absolutely in the wheelhouse of what we should be doing. And so you need to, I don't know, maybe I'm just thinking about that more just because I'm closer to the end than the beginning, but you need to learn to set aside those, those kind of personal preferences and devote yourself to the better good of the company.
I would be surprised that you're challenged by that. I think you do that so well. But again, 50 years in, right?
Yeah, true.
Okay, so we're going to do a little C-suite rapid fire here. So Kent, you're going to have about 4 or 5 questions coming quickly at you. Are you ready?
Quickly.
Are you ready?
Come on.
What do you do for fun?
Oh, what do I do for fun? Well, as Renee knows, I'm a huge movie buff. I also, I love holidays too, just like Renee. I think that's why we're in the business. When I have time, there's a variety of hobbies. I collect antique tools. I was a proficient woodworker, and there's other things. But yeah, that's what I do.
What do you have to do that's not fun?
What do I have to do that's not fun? Laundry.
If you had to give one pro tip and one professional tip, or pro and one personal, what would you give?
Ooh. One professional tip: be genuine. No matter what, be genuine, because you'll be found out if you're not, right? And that part about being found out is disaster. That's kind of professional and personal, though.
Yeah.
Personal is you need to find your passion. Find your passion in life, and everything else will fall in place. I guarantee it.
Yep, I agree with that. How well do you handle a crisis?
I think pretty well.
Great in a
The
crisis.
fairs had to shut down.
Yeah.
Thunder, like,
We've had fires. That's
Storms.
oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Floods, pestilence.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I started crying right now, what would you do?
I'd probably start crying.
Yeah.
Oh.
Do not cry.
Do you have a favorite quote?
Oh,
Quote guy. That's right.
quote guy,
Oh,
yeah.
quote guy.
You know what? So I have too many favorites, so I'm going to give you one that always cracks me up when I think about it, because quotes about change. Change is so important, right? Change is inevitable. Change, blah blah blah. Did you know the basis of that quote, "Change is inevitable," is over 2,000 years old? But my
These are the
favorite
facts.
quote is, "Change is inevitable, except from a vending machine."
Oh, that sounds like a corny dad joke.
See? There you go.
Oh boy. What is sweet about you? Since we're in the C-suite.
Well, I'm a sentimental slob.
Oh
For
yes.
sure.
Yes. Oh. Do you like sweets?
Yeah, which is a real problem. Yes.
And then who is your sweetie?
My sweetie is my wife, Carolyn.
Carolyn.
Yes, Carolyn.
Yes.
Carolyn is, yes, she's home with dogs and cats no cats now, but horses and pigs and everything
Oh,
else.
boy.
And I love her so much that I put up with all of it.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, Renee, off to you. What do you do for fun?
Fun. Well, I have 4 kids, and so anytime I can do and go with them and with my husband, and so that's been a lot of watching basketball over the years. I love to hike. I love spending time with my 83-year-old parents.
Oh, yeah.
And so, yeah, that's kind of, I wish I could say I love riding my Peloton or I love doing those things. I'm still waiting.
Honesty.
Yeah,
Is
honesty,
a good
yeah.
sign of a leader.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you work harder now or 25 years ago?
I work totally different. And maybe someone just said that, but or I'm just older and I feel, I have no perspective anymore, but I think I do work smarter. I'm more strategic about what I'm doing. Not even if I'm purposely doing it. I just have enough experience for the past umpteen years of working.
And if you had to give one pro tip and one personal tip, what would those be?
Well, it's just to be you. I mean, just to be, authentic, to be you, and, just celebrate the moment, savor the day.
Is savor your day also your favorite quote?
Well, yeah, it used to be life is good was, and then, and it's still, that's a good quote, but then with just things that have happened in my world and friends and things that have happened, it now is each day is a gift, and it is kind of savor the moment, but it is that, we are not guaranteed tomorrow, so live today to the absolute, fullest and cherish it, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
I thought of another one my husband told me, and that was, they can't eat you. I like that.
We're talking about piranhas.
I like that.
Tigers.
Your things seem tough, but
Yeah.
they can't eat you.
Yeah.
Right. What is sweet about you?
Well, not a lot. I don't have a lot of, no, you don't see it very often. I do have an empathetic side and a very compassionate side. And I was even telling Tara at one time, we were talking about the homeless situation. And I had said to my husband one day, what do you think when you see a homeless person? And he had said something about, well, I feel like no one cares. That was just his response. And I said, he goes, well, what do you think? And I said, I really wonder what their story is. How did it start? What could have changed? What could have been differently, and I saw that also with my kids going through school. So there's the sweetness in, I really still believe in people at the core, and it, how they got to where they are now is whatever, but I wish I could have somehow could have gotten to them in day one.
Do you like sweets?
Yes, I do.
What's your favorite sweet?
Ooh, an apple crisp, a warm apple crisp with fresh apples, and then
Ice
chocolate,
cream.
and then cheesecake.
And who is
Yeah.
your sweetie?
My husband, we've been married 32, been together 38.
Oh, geez.
And
I love it.
yeah, so now that the kids are gone, rekindling that friendship and that best friendship and time together.
It's
So
a good time. Empty
Yeah.
Nesters is a great time.
yeah, it is.
We are celebrating here at the Puyallup Sumner Chamber of Commerce. I don't know what camera I'm at. 130 years this year. And what I just learned today, very interesting bit of information, factoid for you all, is that it was the old iteration, the original iteration of the chamber that actually founded the Washington State Fair.
Help.
Lost and then found. We're just going to go with that story.
Because the fair's been here for 122 years, and the
Yeah.
chamber's been
130.
under different names.
Yeah, different iterations. Yeah,
Yeah.
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 The Boys Club,
Yeah.
the Traders Club, the Barter
Merchants,
Club,
yeah.
the Merchants. Yeah, yeah. It was the chamber,
We've
though.
changed our name many times too at the fair.
Yeah, yeah.
4
Well,
times.
4 times.
yes, you have. And that last one, Do the Puyallup, was a big change to make, and is also just put you on the maps in such a bigger way. And I think everyone's happy with the change and the branding. Yes, successful. Not everyone.
Not everyone.
We stole your. I don't know if you know. I'm just going to confess right now. Because you kicked Do the Puyallup to the side. We have Do the Brewallup.
Yeah.
Wow,
We kinda borrowed
our
it.
attorneys will be talking.
Yes.
about it. We still own that. Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Now you have to do a song to it. Though.
Oh, yeah.
Do the Brewallup.
Sheila's our singer in
I
our
think
group.
so.
Sheila's our group. Hey, you guys are so charming and wonderful and fun. I love that about the fair. Of course, I wouldn't expect anything more. Could you imagine sitting here with 2 very boring people at the fair? Just wouldn't be one of the best fairs in the world if that was the case. So thank you for launching and being our very first guests on the C-Suite podcast. It was a lot of fun, and I just admire and love you both.
Well,
Thank you.
thank you for having us and becoming a part of our community here in Puyallup Sumner. And you've been a great partner too with us. So
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Well, hey, special thanks to our producer. Hey, I gave you a new title there, Hannah Elwell. This C-Suite podcast is currently brought to you by the Puyallup Sumner Chamber of Commerce, produced by Ms. Hannah Nelson, but looking for a sponsor. So, hey, we'll be opening up some commercial opportunities and sponsorships to you listening. So, thanks so much. Until next time, it was wonderful. Definitely some great lessons learned. There's a C spot in my heart for both of you. All right. Thanks, guys.